Okay, and we are live. Hold on. There we go. There we go. I had my AirPods in. Technical difficulties. What's going on, guys? Welcome to Lifestyle Blueprints, Building a Life of Your Own Design. I'm Josh Hoskins. Have a great show for you today. It's been a fun week. It's been crazy. Got a lot to get into today. A lot of cool stuff to just kind of go at one by one. I'm not in a huge rush today. I'm kind of feeling myself, I got the goatee going on. I've had mixed feedback on the mustache, mixed feedback on the goatee. I'm going to wait for it to grow in before I come to a final verdict on it. But hey, I'm not opposed to it. I'm trying to look smax a little bit, trying to lean down, experiment with new things. It's going to be cool. But I'll give a little preview as to what we got today. So one, I don't know if you guys heard the good news, but I was reposted by Polymarket just today. Earlier in the morning, they reposted one of my clips that was about Gen Z's faking of productivity. And I think kind of along that vein, as a way to celebrate, I think there's something else about my generation we should talk about today, which has to do with their kind of rejection in large part of alcohol and relying upon alcohol as a means to engage with nightlife, entertainment, and as a social lubricant. I think that's kind of an interesting observation to take. So I will be opining on that a little bit, just to kind of go along with that lens. Some other stuff I want to get into too. I know I talked about Brian Johnson not that long ago. He's back in the news, shocking, talking about how he created like a baby clone of himself in a petri dish in order to prolong his life. So I'm gonna go over that, cover a little bit. And then I came across an interesting Reddit post yesterday that I wanted to go over. It has to do with free work and entrepreneurship, how a lot of entrepreneurs will, and this is actually one of the common pieces of entrepreneurship advice that you'll see across the influencer sphere in the coaching space. Like Alex Hormozy talks about this a lot, Gary Vee, I think. But they'll talk about how you should, starting out, do a lot of work for free so that you can build a skill set or a portfolio, and then from there go into, expanding your services, starting to charge more, and that's how you should build your initial book of business. And I'm actually in agreement with the post that was made. It's in r/entrepreneurs that's actually not always a great idea. It's often, most of the time it's actually not. I think the landscape has changed quite a bit in the entrepreneurship space. I'm going to be opining a little bit on that as well. But yeah, no, before we get into all that, I want to remind you to, hey, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. I'm blowing up. Guys, I'm blowing up. I'm being reposted by Polymarket. I'm being reposted by Complex. I'm getting out there. Lifestyle Blueprints, Legendary Life Media as well is on the come up. We have great stuff coming up. We have Gold Rush, which I think I mentioned in my last stream, coming up in September. We have some awesome stuff we're going to do there. We're going to be doing a giveaway. Brandon right now, my co-founder, is in Fiji. He's checking out Anthony Robbins', I think UPW conference in Fiji. And so that's going to be cool. He's going to be doing a piece on that and learn a little bit from the proper self-development space, the mainstream of the self-help. We're going to be giving a little bit of input on that, and Brandon's going to share a bit of his story, which I think will be cool. Definitely worth checking out if you want some more kind of insight into that space. And then let me think. We have the Culture Expo coming up pretty soon in August. That'll be really cool. We're going to be hanging out with some models. That'll be like a fashion event, also some fitness stuff going on there. Really, really cool. And lots of interesting other things in the pipeline. We have the Hondo Rodeo coming up. We're going to be checking that out. So if you're into like country festivals, I think that'll be a really cool kind of glimpse into that. A lot of really awesome stuff happening. So, hey, if you are interested in learning more about lifestyle experiences with a little bit of a twist, a little bit of, hey, what's a real, authentic, raw look into these types of things? What are these actual lifestyles like? What can we glean from them, rather than just the overly glamorized, mainstream look? I think that's a great kind of summary of how we approach things. And for that reason, you should give us a follow. You should subscribe because at least to me, because you love me, right? You're watching the stream. I mean, I don't think you actually are. You're probably watching a recording right now, but hey, you're tuning into the recording and that is enough. That is enough to know that you are a fan and you should super chat. You should follow me and just consume my content. All you should do is consume my content. Never create anything for yourself. You shouldn't. You're not qualified. You know that if you started making content, no one would follow you. That's a joke. That's me making a half-assed attempt to galvanize you into doing something. Kind of before I get into everything too, something I kind of want to say, something I've been seeing a lot is like these reels where people are talking and they're like, like people who who aren't engaging and liking your content if you're doing social media, those are just haters. Like if your friends and your family are not engaging with your content, it's something like this. People are this is what I think is just funny. I think it's hilarious when people will post reels or TikToks where they're like, my random strangers support me more than my friends and family. I think my friends and family are actually haters because they'll watch my content and never like, never comment. But, random strangers on the internet, they support me. So really, if someone who's close to you doesn't engage with you, they're a hater. No, they're not. Okay? No, they're not. If you're one of my friends or family watching this and you don't engage, that's totally fine. You don't have to. Okay? Just tell me that you're not engaging enough. Tell me that you're not good enough to get engagement without telling me you're not good enough to get engagement. If you're complaining that people aren't liking and commenting your post just because they're friends or family, it's okay. Not everyone can be a winner. It's okay if you're a loser. That's fine. Don't complain about it though. Like no one is under any obligation to engage with your content. Okay? If your friends and family aren't engaging with your content, to me, like, instead of whining about it, just take some responsibility and make your content better. Like, that's the way, maybe I'm in the minority for thinking that, but it's on you as a content creator to actually make content that's compelling enough to engage with. No one is obligated to engage with you. Okay? No one is. You will never ever catch me making a video like a lot of these influencers do, or like posting some caption that's like, if your friends and family don't like your content, then they're haters. They're haters. Like the random people who like and engage with your content, they're better people than your friends and family because they at least support you. It's like, bro, shut up. No, that's not how it works. Okay? That's not how it works. Just make better content. Tell me that you don't make good content without telling me you don't make good content. Okay? Make your content better. People will engage. Who cares who they are? No one's obligated to engage with you in any way. Okay? That's my statement on that matter. Okay, I just want to get that off my chest. But getting into the actual show, kind of what I have prepared. First thing I want to get into, this is actually super interesting. I did recently blow up, like I mentioned in the beginning of the stream. Well, maybe blow up is a overstatement, but I was featured, reposted, whatever you'd like to call it, by Polymarket, also in collaboration with Complex, on Instagram earlier today because of a reel that I made from a prior stream about Gen Z. Specifically about how there was a recent report that showed that 80% of them are in some way faking productivity when they're done with their actual work, like they'll jiggle their mouse or keep fake browser tabs open, stuff like that, because, and this is also what I wrote in an article for Legendary Life Media, I think what we call knowledge work is a lot of times, we've still never mastered the ability to measure it properly in terms of productivity. This is something that Cal Newport actually writes a lot about in his book, Deep Work. And then he has another book that just came out recently, I think, called The Deep Life. I would absolutely check that out because Cal Newport's, I think, one of the absolute best authorities and a real genius. I think there's a lot of really overrated self-development authors out there who, you know, write the typical books like that you'll see in Barnes and Noble that are just like have like the obligatory cuss word, like the simple art of not giving a fuck, or, you know, you're a fucking boss, you got this. You know, it's obviously like in some super like in like a feminine color scheme that's obviously marketed towards like, you know, corporate girl boss women, which is, you know, I have nothing against. I love anyone who's an entrepreneur. I love anyone who's successful, but it's just so funny who that's obviously pandering to. You know, there are plenty of authors kind of in that realm that I don't necessarily take super seriously, although I'm sure they have some good insights. Cal Newport is not one of them. Cal Newport actually has a lot of great material, and in his book, Deep Work, he talks about how there's this distinction now between knowledge work, which is work that has to do more with working with data. It's a lot of white collar jobs would fall under knowledge work, product management, even a lot of sales and marketing falls under knowledge work now. It's really hard to measure productivity in those types of roles directly versus like, you know, if someone's working on a factory line, it's really easy to measure what they're doing, right? It's like, okay, how long did they work? How many units did they create or assist in creating? Whereas if you're a coder, or you're working in marketing, or you're working in HR, or you're doing something that doesn't have a direct measure of success, it's tough to know exactly, okay, what does working hard even mean in that context? What does productivity even mean in that context? We're really bad as a society at measuring that. I don't even know if it's possible. So I think that contributes to it. So it's a multifaceted issue, but in general, we're finding that Gen Z, at least in a self-reported way, is admitting to faking up to 80% of their quote-unquote productivity. So I opined a little bit on that on my last show. And, you know, as one does, posting clips, getting clipped. One of the clips was picked up by Polymarket. They put it on their Instagram page. I put it on my personal Instagram story. It's on the Lifestyle Blueprints Instagram. And I think that it was really cool, and it kind of gave me cause to try to like dig a little bit deeper into Gen Z. I mean, it's my generation. I'm particularly invested in it. I grew up in it. I'm directly affected by the things that affect Gen Z. So, I mean, I'm obviously a little bit more, you could say, biased toward it. But I think there is some cool stuff you can glean just about society in general from the way Gen Z is acting, because they're kind of the main, you know, they're coming into the mainstream as far as entering the workforce, having a lot of influence. And what's cool is one of those things, which I'm going to talk about right now, is how they're affecting the alcohol industry. So Gen Z is causing some massive disruption in the alcohol industry right now. Pretty fascinating. So reports are that Gen Z is responsible in large part for wiping out $830 million of liquor stocks and liquor equity. It's to the point where Jim Beam apparently is halting output. There's a lot of interesting things going on. Just a pretty global shift in drinking habits and trends that I think is largely due to Gen Z's reaction. And I can relate to this as well. I mean, as a member of Gen Z, I remember making a decision weirdly kind of early on to moderate my alcohol intake. And I have had long periods of time actually where I was completely sober. Back when I was in a phase where I was first going out a lot, even to bars, clubs, that kind of thing. I still do even to this day, but I do it largely sober. Like I might have one or two drinks just so I have something like in my hand or something. And I honestly don't even really like when I do drink, I'm usually drinking like a tequila soda with lime. Like I'm not like, I'm keeping it even within the realm of alcohol. I'm kind of keeping it lean. But I don't really like, I never had an easy time identifying with what I saw older generations do, which was kind of romanticize alcohol into this like, oh, like we're going out so that we can get fucked up, or we're going out so that we can get sloshed and drunk. Like, oh, it's going to be so fun. We're going to get so drunk. I always kind of thought like, not that even in a sense of moral superiority. And I think that's kind of the missing conversation, like part of the conversation in the sobriety scene going on right now, especially with Gen Z, is that like I am largely sober. I'm not a teetotaler, but I'm largely sober. I heavily moderate my alcohol intake, and I don't do it from like a moral lens. I think a lot of people will like, I see reels about this all the time where people are like, you know, like these people who are going out and getting drunk while I'm on the grind, you know, like blah, blah. It's like, I don't think about it that way. I think that's really pretentious and stupid, in my opinion. It's like, who cares? It's like, we're all gonna die, whatever. But what I do think is interesting is seeing this purely from a pragmatic standpoint of like, I don't enjoy being drunk. Like, I actually like to be alive. Not that I'm saying like if you like getting drunk, you don't like being alive. I don't mean to get that extreme, but what I am saying is like, I have a high value on being conscious. I like to be as awake as possible. It's actually probably to the point where it's a negative. Like, I actually don't like sleeping. I wish I could live my life never sleeping. I like being awake. I like being alive. You know, as Nas said, sleep is the cousin of death. Like, I like to be alive. I want to be awake as much as I possibly can. And to me, I kind of see being drunk as like analogous to being unconscious in a way. Like, that's like being blackout drunk is kind of the signifier of that. Like, I really see alcohol as kind of as a method to be awake without being fully awake and conscious. And to me, that's kind of the exact opposite of how I want to live. I want to be as conscious as possible. So I don't know if that's something that makes me unique. Maybe Gen Z is, maybe I'm extrapolating that too much, saying that's a trend within Gen Z. But what's undeniable is the fact that Gen Z is in large part embracing a non-alcoholic lifestyle. So, I mean, more and more friends of mine that are in my age group, I notice, are going sober, they're going through like long periods of being sober, where they'll do like an alcohol fast or something like that. I'm noticing a lot of people really embracing sobriety in my age group, which I think is cool. It's interesting to see the impact it's having on the market. Apparently, like I said earlier, apparently $830 million of market value is gone from like a lot of the alcohol industry right now, which I think is pretty wild. I like a good cocktail though from time to time, so like I hope it isn't, you know, totally destroyed, but I do think that there's a lot of interesting insights we can glean about lifestyle from there. So maybe I kind of want to say, like, what are some of like these are like the top 3 unexpected benefits that I experienced when I started drinking a lot less. I went through a long period of time where I was basically completely sober. I had a long period of being sober, mostly for health reasons. Like, I had a long period, I purposely underwent about a 6-month period of being totally sober just to have the experience, know what it's like. And these are 3 of the really unexpected benefits that I had. The first one was I felt way more awake. I was awake more. It's hard to explain, but like when I got up, I felt more awake. When I went out and I was having fun, and that's just something that also probably makes me unique. I never had a problem going out sober. And I think that makes me unique. I would go out sober with my friends. Like, I'd go to bars, clubs, the same bars and clubs that other people would go to just to drink. I would go and I would just get like a soda water. And what's funny is, I mean, this is just my personality. I'm also pretty disciplined with the way I socialize too. Like, I was having just as much fun going out sober as I was after drinking. It was a little bit more of a discipline in a way, where I had to kind of like get warmed up socially. I didn't have the same lubricant that everyone else had socially through the alcohol, but I still found a way to replicate that social lubricant just through practice. Like, okay, I'm just gonna like, on the way to the bar, I'm gonna talk to 5 people and just get kind of warmed up, and that kind of had the same effect as having one drink, right? And doing that like really gave me a fresh perspective on what it's like to be sober in these environments, and what it's like to actually have a lot of the positive social experiences that are often associated with alcohol without the reduction in consciousness that inevitably comes with the consumption of alcohol. And I think that's something that on a massive scale, and I'm sure it's not quite, that's not the way that I think most Gen Z people would articulate it, but I think that is what's happening by and large. So that's the first thing I noticed when I became, when I went through that sober period, was that. The second thing was I realized it gave me kind of a fresh kind of, like, one of the reasons why I never really enjoyed getting drunk, even when I wasn't sober, I still heavily moderated alcohol, and I never really enjoyed getting drunk, was because I actually feel a certain level of disgust when I see people getting drunk to the point where they're no longer in control of themselves. I'm a big, if you know me, then it probably won't be any surprise to hear that I put a high value on consciousness and self-control. I really love to be fully present, and I love being able to have a high degree of responsibility and control over my awareness, the way I reply and respond to things, the way I'm able to take action. I like having full control. And the effect of alcohol that I would see on a lot of people is they would lose that control. They would become highly unconscious, and that would almost cause me to, like, this is probably a problem that I have. I should probably talk to a therapist about this. But when I would see people losing control over themselves as a direct result of them having too much alcohol, I would actually feel disgust. Like, I would feel disdain. I'd be like, you're not, like, I wouldn't say this to them because it would be a huge waste of time. Like, they're not going to understand it, especially if they're drunk. But it's like, you're not you right now. You are, like, almost possessed by this thing other than you that is controlling you through the alcohol. Like, it's like you're not being you right now. And like, you're saying things you would never normally say, you're doing things you'd never normally do. It's almost like I'm not talking to the same person. Like, I'm talking to this other alcohol influenced person that has spawned in this moment. And I almost see you as, like, I'm like, okay, you're not my friend right now. You're the thing that's taking over my friend. And that actually causes me to kind of have an uncanny valley disgust response. That's probably very extreme. Like, it's probably just me, and I'm probably over, many arguments could be made against that and how I'm overthinking it. And that's only, like, when it comes to high inebriation, right? Like, if you have a couple of cocktails and we're having fun, that's different than what I'm talking about. But yeah, I think that's something that I think Gen Z also is maybe recognizing that they saw in their parents or in their families, older generations, where that was the case. And I think another thing that made me realize is number 3. I think a lot of people are getting a little too deep with, like, the whole Gen Z is rejecting alcohol. The alcohol industry is $830 million down because of how Gen Z is stepping away from alcohol. Like, this is so deep. I don't think it's as deep as people think. I think it's more just, in the past, alcohol was one of, like, the only ways people had fun. It was pretty much alcohol and sex were, like, the two ways people had fun in general when they became adults, and they never really grew past that, other than, maybe, like, you could talk about, like, television and media, but, like, alcohol and sex were the main ways human beings have had fun for most of human history. It's like, okay, you're a peasant, you're underneath some feudal king, you have zero hope for any kind of upward mobility, you're gonna be a farmer your whole life. What are the two ways you can still have fun, though? You can get drunk and you can have sex. And, like, that's it. And I think, like, that's most of humankind, and I think that's kind of baked into the human psyche in a degree. But what Gen Z did was we grew up in this incredibly dopamine-rich environment, like, even more so with the internet than any generation before us has had, which I think is kind of the critical mass that caused the huge backlash to alcohol in Gen Z. Is, okay, well, we don't need alcohol to have fun as much anymore. We have all these different curated experiences. We have Instagram, which, like, I think that's an interesting debate, actually. I wonder, like, let me know in the comments. I just thought of this. Let me know in the comments what would be better for society if we totally got rid of social media or we totally got rid of alcohol. You can only choose one. If you had to pick one, getting fully rid of alcohol or fully rid of social media, which one is better for society? I actually think my answer, and I could be wrong, just my opinion, I would rather get rid of social media than get rid of alcohol. Like, the human race was doing just fine with tons of alcohol without social media. And a lot of people make it like a health thing. And trust me, like I'm generally pro-sober, as I've been mentioning, because of the consciousness aspect. But in terms of just sheer longevity, people try to make alcohol consumption about health. But like the longest living areas of the world right now, I think, are like Okinawa, Japan, and France. And like those people drink like crazy, smoke like crazy, eat nothing but carbs. Well, that's probably actually not the case. I don't think they only eat carbs. They probably eat a lot of protein because they eat a lot of fish and fats, like omega-3 fatty acids. But the point I'm making is like a lot of people make the alcohol sobriety conversation about like health and longevity. I'm all for sobriety, but I don't think that's the best way to go, because a lot of the societies and areas of the world with the most longevity are places where they drink like crazy. Like France is like they drink wine like endlessly. Like Okinawa, Japan, like they've been drinking sake over there for forever. Okay, so I don't think that's necessarily the way to go. But yeah, I'm trying to get back on track, trying to get back to what I was thinking about. But yeah, I mean, that's my thought. Yeah, which would you personally get rid of? That's the question I'm going to pose to the comments. If you could only let me know in the comments, if you had to get rid of just one, would you get rid of social media or would you get rid of alcohol? Which of the two? I'll let that decide. My pick is alcohol. Wait, no, my pick is social media. Yeah, so this is my final thought on it. If I could get rid of 100% alcohol or 100% social media right now, if I had to pick one of the two, I would probably get rid of social media first. If I had to pick like what was better and I had to get rid fully of one of them. I mean, there's lots of things I like about social media, and I don't think alcohol is necessarily like the total evil that a lot of people are putting on. People will be like, alcohol is just poison. It's like, no, it's not that simple. But if I had to get rid fully of one, it'd probably be social media before alcohol. That's actually my thought. Many would disagree. So what's the next thing? So off of that, what I now want to talk about is how, yeah. All right, guys. So guess what? Brian Johnson's back in the news. Brian Johnson, my favorite billionaire health longevity influencer, back in the news. And here's what he said on X that has people talking. It says, I just cloned myself as a newborn. With this clone, I can become my own blood boy. Insane thing to say. Test therapies on the clone, grow organs for transplantation, develop new treatments, and inject young cells. And the baby Brian, as he puts it, lives in a petri dish for now. Okay, this opens up a lot of questions. This opens up a lot of different questions that I cannot wait to discuss. So, first of all, cloning. Interesting topic to just think about, right? So, cloning is we got to talk about what kind of clone this is. Is this like a clone that has the potential to be fully conscious? Is this a clone that's just like a biological clone? Like, is this a full-on human being? Is this like a full-on embryo? I don't think we have that information yet. I've been looking. Like, I mean, Brian Johnson's trying to be provocative here, so he's talking about it like it's a newborn. I think it's just like a little thing in a petri dish. But I am cautious about this. Because on one hand, it's like, what's the ethical boundary possibly being crossed here? It's the fact that if you're growing a whole new alive human being in order to prolong your own health, are you playing God? Are you creating a new being that now has its own set of rights that you're now infringing by doing that? Is it a slippery slope maybe? Like even if it is, on paper, not, even if it is kind of above board ethically on paper, could it maybe lead downstream to other things being allowed that would be crossing the line ethically? I don't know. And I think here's my position on this. If Brian Johnson, if you're listening, if you're creating a human being that, has potential to be fully conscious and have personhood, then I think God, the universe, whatever, is going to balance with force the level of consequences that happens as a result of that. So that's what it is. But I doubt that's what the case is. I think what's happening is he's growing some kind of bioorganism. Feels like a pretty low IQ way of saying it, but he's growing some kind of bioorganism that has his DNA in it that can be used to generate human DNA that matches his, but it doesn't belong to any separate person, which I think is actually kind of like, I'm not, as weird as that sounds, to me it's like, okay, like, I'll put it this way, like if I was like 70 and I had like a 70-year-old heart that was failing, and they said, hey, we cloned a 20-year-old version of you's heart that we can replace the 70-year-old version of we can replace your 70-year-old heart with an identical DNA. What's the best way of putting it? If a doctor came up to me and said, hey, Josh, you're 70 and your heart's failing, we can replace your current 70-year-old heart with a genetically identical 20-year-old version of you's heart that we grew in a lab, and that would add, 50 years to your life until you need a new heart or whatever. I would say I would probably be okay with it. But if they were like, hey, we grew a perfectly conscious, fully self-reliant clone of you who's 20, and we're going to kill him in order to get his heart and then put it in you so you can have the 20-year-old heart, that would be obviously wrong. But I think what has people kind of weirded out by what Brian Johnson announced with his newborn clone is like, okay, where on that spectrum of like just generated in a lab, just the heart that could be life-saving to somebody, versus growing a whole new person in order so that we can take their organ, like that's a spectrum. And I think people are trying to figure out, okay, where on the spectrum does this lie, and also where on the spectrum are we going to draw the boundary? And I think that's kind of the debate right now. I don't really have a firm opinion on it, other than I think at least it's cool that modern medicine is being advanced. I'm down to live to 200, but I also want to, at what cost, right? At what cost? At what cost, Brian Johnson? At what cost do you want to live forever? Would you create a clone of yourself that was fully conscious just to replace it with your own heart and brain and organs? I don't know. Interesting, Brian Johnson never ceases to surprise me with how unhinged he can make his social media content. It's really inspiring. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Question for you. Would you, if you had the opportunity to grow an identical clone of yourself so that you can replace your organs with it? So let me know this. Let me know this in the comments. If you were 70 years old and you had a failing heart, and the doctor came up to you and said, hey, we grew a genetically identical heart to yours that's a 20-year-old version of it that we can replace your current 70-year-old heart with, would you do it if it meant that you could live longer? And by the way, the doctor does not tell you if this heart is from a person who's conscious or if it's just grown in the lab. You don't get access to that information. All you're handed is hey, 20-year-old heart, we can give it to you right now, replace your 70-year-old heart and help you live longer because your heart's failing. If you were able to do that, would you say yes? Question, ethical question. So, okay, that's Brian Johnson. The latest from him. I'm sure we'll hear from him again. I don't want to make every episode about Brian Johnson. I can't resist, man. I can't resist. The guy is hilarious. Guy is hilarious and very relevant. So, talked about that. We talked about Gen Z going sober. Last thing I want to talk about, I came across this Reddit post, this Reddit thread. It's from earlier today, actually. And it goes by this: do it free to get your foot in the door is a trap. In years of trying, the free work almost never converted. This is from r/entrepreneurs. And I wanted to talk about this because there's this very frequent recurring line of advice that goes on in the entrepreneurial advice sphere of, hey, like if you're starting a business, you need to be really good at or if you're starting a business, you should be fine with doing it for free for a long time until you build up a portfolio or you build up a book of business and then you start charging for it. And I think that is a very careful line you need to tread. And I think it might at this point be outdated. We're at a point now where, well, I can tell you this off the bat. Any client, if you're starting a new business and you're following the advice of, hey, I'm going to offer what I do for free so that I can build experience or build a portfolio or whatever, any client that will take advantage of that offer, I can almost guarantee you will be a terrible client. What will happen likely, and this is like something that you should kind of have in your back pocket. If you're starting a new business and you're offering your services for free in order to in exchange for experience or whatever, you're going to get businesses that will insist on paying you. That's happened because I've done this a few times. And whenever I hey, I want to do this thing and I want to offer it for free, a lot of times I would do it for businesses and then those people would be like, oh, I'm paying you for this. And they'll go out of their way to pay me. It might be less than what I would have originally charged, but they'll at least pay me something. I found that that's actually probably what you want to go for in the back of your head, right? You don't say that out loud, but that's kind of what you want to lean towards, because the businesses that actually will, the clients that you might get that will actually take advantage of this offer that you're doing of hey, I'll do work for free in exchange for experience or a portfolio, whatever. Those will, without fail, always be the worst possible clients you could ever have. I'm telling you right away. You think that they're going to be easier because they're expecting free work? No, they are going to be the most pain in the ass. Don't fall for it. The clients that are willing to pay are going to be the best clients. And those are going to be pretty much what you want to rely on. Now there are exceptions to this, and this is kind of what I want to get into, because there are certain businesses that you can start that will need some kind of portfolio to get serious business going. So if you're in media, if you're in photography, videography, it helps to have a portfolio, but don't let that be something that scares you from charging. I think that's really common. It's I know a lot of photographers who want to get into the photography business and they're I want to get a portfolio together before I really start advertising my services. It's dude, no, there are people who will, your time and resources will be much better spent figuring out ways to get paid without a portfolio than it will be trying to do the quote unquote safe thing by building a portfolio without getting paid. I know that sounds it sounds like the logical thing to do is to work for free until you get a portfolio and then from there get into the money. I think there's a time where that was really good advice, and I think that's why a lot of times it stays so prevalent. Most successful people I know who run agencies or they do photography or some kind of media work, and I know a lot of them did not do that. A lot of them just got started and they found people in one way or another who were willing to pay them even though they didn't have the portfolio. There are ways you can do that. If you're in media, you can use Thumbtack. That's a cool way to get leads. There's or you can go get a rough portfolio for people who aren't necessarily clients. But like if you're trying to start your entrepreneurship journey with free clients to build up your experience or whatever, I get where you're coming from, but you're starting off on the wrong foot in a pretty big way. Like you should be hyper vigilant for what can I realistically charge for and insist on being paid. Even if it's lower than your original price point, whatever, like find people who will pay you. Like that's how you become successful as an entrepreneur. It's not through like find people who you can work for free so you can build up your knowledge or whatever. It's like, yes, there's areas where that's the case, but like if you're starting from scratch doing like an agency or something, like a lot of people are doing, like find people who will pay you. Because one, that's how you'll actually become a successful business owner, an entrepreneur who makes their business more than just another job. Because that's what most entrepreneurs do. And that's kind of why after my first level of success being an entrepreneur, I kind of changed my approach because I had success being an entrepreneur, but, and this is what a lot of people who are quote unquote successful entrepreneurs will tell you, or if they're being honest would admit, a lot of them aren't honest. And that's another thing too, like people who act like entrepreneurs are by default like better people or more responsible people just because they're entrepreneurs. No, it's not because they're like on some higher plane than other people. They probably just have ADHD. Like entrepreneurs are not better people than people who have 9-to-5s. And I'm sick of that propaganda. I'm sick of the propaganda of like you know what, like I'm one of the real ones because I got an entrepreneur, like I'm self-employed. I don't have a boss. I'm my own boss. So I'm better. You know, it's like most of those people have like their quote unquote like business that they are now their own boss of. It's like if you look at what they're making and what they're doing in their actual life, they're generally more miserable than people who have 9-to-5s. And this isn't to bash on entrepreneurs at all. It's just like, don't get suckered into the hype that being an entrepreneur leads to any kind of more glamorous life, whether that's like your lifestyle or that's like your own self-image. It's like a lot of the like grubbiest, most like dishonorable people I know are entrepreneurs, okay? Like a lot of entrepreneurs suck as people. Lots of them do. So like going through like the journey to become an entrepreneur, that's not going to like instantly bestow a halo upon you and make you like this elevated person. It's like there are plenty of people who are like worked their way up in a corporate setting who I would trust with business or with something like way more than I would trust with, you know, the entrepreneur who came up quote unquote from nothing. That said, like the entrepreneurs who surpassed back further past the point of just making a new job for themselves where they're miserable and actually scale their business to the point where they are, an actual real one where they're able to live the life they truly want to live and they're making good enough money and they're able to scale their business, perhaps even sell their business. Those are not people who started with, oh, like I'm going to do free work and then eventually I'm going to, get paid for the free work I'm doing. Like those are the people who end up just building new jobs for themselves because they're not starting off on the right foot and with the right mindset. Find a way to get paid off rip. Find a way to get paid off rip. That's the mindset you need to have. People will be willing to pay you. That's the white pill in all of this. Like there are people out there who will happily pay you for what you do. Even if you don't have a ton of experience off the bat, like there are people out there. It's a little bit of work to find them, but you know what? It's also a little bit of work to do work for free. So like instead of spending that effort doing work for free, spend that effort finding people who will pay you. That's what you should do if you're a starting entrepreneur. So I'm fully in agreement with this Reddit post that talks about this. Now, yeah, there are narrow exceptions. Like if you really, if there's a business you have that could really use a portfolio, maybe if it's a very niche offering that you have, and you have the opportunity kind of falls in your lap to build a portfolio piece from it, then I'm not saying never to do it, but if your mentality is like, I need to get 10 portfolio pieces before I even start talking about charging, that's, you're falling into a trap, my friend. You're falling into a very common entrepreneurship trap. I would like to help you avoid it. Because yeah, people who accept free work are, and free is also a narrow definition too, right? Because like for example, like through Legendary Life Media, we cover a lot of events. A lot of times we get photographers to help us cover events, right? And those photographers are often not paid. Depends on the event. I would say 90% of the time they're getting photos for us for free, but it's a really good opportunity for them because they are getting that portfolio piece, and the specific kind of access that we can give them makes it highly worth it for them because they're getting, you know, backstage places, they're getting in the photo pit for large music events, they're getting in the photo pit for like celebrities, to take pictures of celebrities. So we're actually, like, even though it's technically free in like a direct money giving monetary sense, like there is a lot of value. So the word free is loose here. But yeah, I also want to make that disclaimer because, you know, I wish it was black and white. I wish everything was black and white, but it's not. So yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to go over today. You know, I'm really excited about what's coming up in the future. I'm gonna hopefully start doing IRL streams. I'm actually thinking of, not on this channel, but through the Legendary Life Media channel, doing IRL streams with all of our contributors. Des, known as Des Goes Nuts on Instagram, is going to be a big part of that. I'm going to be going live with him soon. Really just living the life, right? Living the life of that we talk about a lot, because it's cool to like talk on the camera to you in this way, but about these topics, and you know, it's something I'm always going to do. I'm trying to be a better broadcaster, but doing IRL broadcasts I think is going to be the way forward. So sweet. That's pretty much everything I have for this episode, though. So I think I'm going to log off. Hey, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Give me a follow. Give me a like if you're listening again, or if you're watching the recording of this. It means a lot to me.